Hail, hail! Hail, hail, the Celts are here, and what the hell do we care now? It's the last couple of hours of the January transfer window, which I think we all believed would have been a bit more clinical, let's say a bit more professional, maybe a wee bit more befitting of a world-class elite European club. But thus far, it has went from bad to worse, from joke to meme, and everything else in between. Didn't even mean that to rhyme, but there we go. We are here for the Sorare CSC. The Celts are here on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and all the other good places. I'm Quinny, and I'm joined as ever by McBride Ace. Hail, hail, McBride. Good to see you.
Hail, hail. Yeah, it's good to see you. It's good to see you. We're not having a good window, are we? So, but hopefully it doesn't turn into the agony ants tonight. But yeah, there we go. There's loads of stuff happening. Whether or not there's loads of stuff happening at Celtic, I'm not so sure, but I'm sure we'll have a good chat about it and dissect it and give them a roasting as well.
Yeah, because I think, the Celtic fans are all, there's two camps that we all kind of fall into on this channel, even with the contributors as well as the live chat, and just Celtic fans, I think, everywhere. And it's either the board are never going to change, stop getting your hopes up, and then there's we might be changing. It feels like we're changing. And I think this camp here has been really influenced under the whole Postecoglou era, where we were clinical in the transfer market, we were agile in the transfer market, and the players all made sense. The players all worked for the most part. They seem to kind of integrate in, and so there's two camps out there, and it feels like the first camp, the board will never change camp, are they're prevailing on this window, certainly, aren't they, McBride?
Is that the board we should be sacking? Sack the board.
Yeah. Shark attack.
Yeah, when are we protesting? Will we just cancel this now? We're just going to protest. So Adam Ida is going to be announced, and we're all going to be standing holding sharks and stuff. Yeah, I mean, we had a chat about it earlier on in the window and stuff, and I kind of said, look, let's give it some time, and we've signed Kuhn, and I still think he'll work out well, but that's really early doors and stuff. Other things obviously have moved on. We know that Vickers might be injured, but we don't know how bad the injury is. He's signed a new deal. Hatate obviously went off injured in the Asian Cup. Looks like his calf. Again, do we know how serious that is? And we couldn't make it to half time, so he's injured. Greg Taylor's been injured. In terms of validation, how many times have we sat here and talked about left back on this show? I mean, at nearly every week we've discussed left back, and I know you maybe rate Greg Taylor slightly higher than me, but we've talked about it over and over and over again in terms of left back, and we've only got Bernabei, and he wasn't the Champions League squad, and we don't trust him and stuff. And lo and behold, we've found ourselves in a situation where we've got a couple hours and we seem to be struggling for a left back. And the names I'm getting are obviously the stuff in the media. Lamin Kurzawa. Apparently, we asked for Sergio Gomez at Man City, who would have been an unbelievable signing, but they said no. But again, that's just a rumor. But we're in a situation where we've not managed to move Bernabei on. Okay, it's not easy to move guys on. We've seen it's not easy to actually get guys in, but also when we had the situation with Juranovic maybe wasn't happy, or Ange felt that he was not a bad egg, but he wasn't happy about being rotated, and Ange's policy in that is you just get them out. Him and Gio, right, they're going. But we had Alistair Johnson signed and ready before he went out, whereas with this, what's happening is we're kind of as if we're waiting till we get rid of somebody, and we seem to be more successful today in terms of getting people out than getting them in, which is okay in terms of numbers and stuff. I get all that. There's loads of guys there that realistically probably won't even go on the bench at some point soon. But it just seems like they've not had a proper plan. We've had 6 months. You can defend the first window by saying Roger just came in, there's a change in manager, it's a wee bit of a transition, he needs to get time to see the squad, what does he want, how does he assess it. Him and Cal McGregor talk about quality, and doesn't he look to me as if we've actually signed any quality? So, don't want to jump down Kuhn's throat, because he may well be very good and he may well be quality, but it's just embarrassing for me that we can get £2 million for David Turnbull, or in that region of the deal, however it's structured, with 6 months to go, but we won't spend more than 3.5 million on a player for the team. it's just, we won't even have spent any money in this window. We'll get $1 million for Gucci. It looks like we're getting Turnbull out. We've not actually spent anything. It's just at this stage, just find that like incredible, really.
It beggars belief for sure. Andy Taggart, hail, hail. Thanks for joining us as well. Michael Ross catching us on the stop clock. The intro tune was running bang on time. You might not have seen our faces bang on time, but the show was technically live on time, so I'm not taking that. And a lot of regulars in here dropping fist bumps and dropping the hail hails. So good to see you. I'm totally with you, mate. And I think like the most kind of, let's say, interesting info that's came out over the last 24, 48 hours is really, whenever I see the words written down, I just hear Etienne's voice, Sean, who's, not been on the show for a little while, but that word nepotism, because like that's really been the thing that seems to be under the microscope over the last 48 hours. Who's the scouts? Who's the executives? All the links and all the names that seem to repeat themselves and whatever. And like we've joked on the channel, we get the comments from you guys as well, whether in the live stream or after, saying like, you guys could do a better job. But I've seen this stuff and I'm thinking, I could do that job. Like, if this is who they're employing, like, I could do this. Like, it's not that hard, to go and spot players. It looks like, you just need to work in World of Golf for 6 months, and then
I was going to say you're never going to golf. Go up, you come on. Now I used to play golf. Surely I should get the job. Come on. I'm called Mark as well.
And I think Quinn's like a big enough name. There'll probably be somebody already in the club that has that name if that's the way it works. So. Just need to find who else is on the staff that's called Quinn and just see if there's a family tree link there, and I'm probably in. And that seems like a ridiculous joke, right? But see, when you then lay it next to the business, like, what have we been doing? It's been blatant. We did a video on the channel explaining like what the club have been saying. They know we need to spend money. They know we need quality additions. They know they have money, and they know what's on the line with the Champions League group stages. And I think we said on this stream, maybe at the beginning of January, maybe after a week or two, when it was that kind of quiet period, that if we've not had anything done now, then we're probably not going to get anything until the last day. Now, Kuhn's kind of came in the middle of that. But on top of what I've just laid out there, the other thing that's kind of driving a wedge right into the middle of this is the loan signing with no option to buy of Ireland international Adam Ida from Norwich. Now, this one, I'll just give you my kind of 2 cents on it, McBride. I would love to hear what you think as well, and everyone in the live chat. For me, number one, it's a stinking transfer, I think, in terms of like everything, adding quality to the squad and all the rest of it, right? But where I do come down on the positive side of this is I don't mind loaning a guy in for 6 months that we've got no intention of buying if it is, like the guys that we want are completely unavailable. I don't really want to spend $4.5 million on Miovski. I'm not really convinced about this Kvitsgarden guy that everyone seems to love from Brøndby. And, like, what are we going to go and bring in, an alternative? I wouldn't want us to buying this guy, on the face of it, for adding to the squad. And the way I look at this Adam Ida is ultimately, if he was to show up in Scotland at any other team, I don't think his credentials would be too dissimilar to Shankland or Miovski, who everyone would be married to coming to us. I think if he played for Motherwell or St Johnstone or Hibs, he probably scores as well, in our division for one of those teams, if that makes sense. So having that level of guy coming in, I think on the face of it, will probably just give the team a wee bit of breathing space, but it's not an ambitious transfer. It's not something that's been laid out in a plan of design, and it's not really solving any problems. It's kicking it down the road. That's all it really is at the best case scenario.
Yeah. So I think that a loan actually does make a wee bit of sense in that South Korea got through. So if South Korea hadn't got through the other day, then O would be back like this weekend. It's obvious we're short there because, if one of the questions is what would happen if Furuhashi got injured. The other thing in my mind about Furihashi's situation is that he's a certain style of player, and actually I think that against Aberdeen away from home that will suit him better. But we've been struggling with certain types of games where we play at home against a low block. Frustratingly, sometimes I think maybe Hatate not being available there kind of hinders that a wee bit, because he's one of those guys that breaks the lines and goes through and creates something, and really seems as if he had sort of broken into the Japan team, which is, is actually pretty good because they've got lots of good technical players. With Ida, I think that he's an international. He's scored goals before for Ireland, so he's got a wee bit of pedigree from that point of view. What I don't understand about it is you go and you sign a guy who's quite a big guy or whatever, and you'd be thinking, well, if Celtic really brought in a target man, right, or a guy who was a proven goal scorer, but he wasn't good at the movement or whatever, you could say, well, okay, we're 70 minutes in, we've struggled to score here at home, we're going to put him on, and we're going to, rather than the low cross or the play through the middle, we're going to try and get width and try and get the ball across, try and get the jaggy bun on it, as they used to say, score a goal with a header. So that would make sense, but I don't know if he is that type of guy. I mean, he does seem to be a big guy, but I don't know if he is particularly sort of good in the air. So Michael Roche is 6'3". Well, I get that, but and I understand that, but it's like Majowski, people saying we signed Majowski, but although he's quite a big guy, he's not particularly a target man. He's a good player. I do think he's a good player, but whether or not you say he's worth the 3 or 4, I don't know. What I really don't get ambition wise is that if we feel as if we need a striker and we're getting players out like 2 million for Turnbull and 1 million for Ideguchi, why we don't just go and pay the 4 million for Majowski? I mean, he's 24. It's not going to go too badly or whatever. I don't understand that. So there must be some sort of feeling. I think there is a feeling from Rodgers' point of view that there's just too many players actually in the squad. That we've got too many players, and we needed a lot of players to start the season. We were in the League Cup, we were in the Champions League, we were in the Scottish Cup, which starts a bit later, and we had the league. There are definitely less games left at the end of the season, but we're now in a position where guys like Mikey Johnson go out on loan, which is fine, but we've had to bring him on in games as well. So, have we got enough? Are we going to say, all right, well, we're just going to forget about James Forrest, we're going to forget about Mikey Johnson, we're going to give that a new deal and say, right, if we're down to the bare bones, you're coming on now? I don't know. And yeah, I mean, we've done some good business. I mean, people won't give much credit for it, but actually having Matt O'Reilly in a long-term deal and being able to say Atletico Madrid, we know you want to loan him, you want to give us a lot of money in the summer, but we're just saying no to that. Well, that is good, but that's not the frustration. The frustration is, like, we've got to flip to a policy of we've made our money and we've got the chance of making the big money in the Champions League, and we've got to then drive it home. So, we were talking with Sorare, sometimes you're buying guys and you try to add a bit of depth, or you're buying guys for the future. Then you look at it and you go, I just need somebody that's going to improve my team here. I want to go and buy somebody I know is going to do well every week. And how we cannot identify that person in 6 months, knowing we've got the money in the bank, knowing we're in a title fight, knowing the manager wants quality, is completely and utterly baffling to me. I just don't get it. It's as if our recruitment department's been run by Stevie Wonder. No offence to Stevie Wonder, but come on, like, see, when you said that you thought that you would do a better job, I would actually trust you more to do a better job identifying players, or Sean or Mark Patrick Rare, to find us better players than the job we are doing at Celtic at the moment. It's completely and utterly baffling, and the only thing I can think of is because the transfer business wasn't very good before Ange, and it's went back the same way, is that Ange has come in, Ange has had an idea of a type of player he wants to sign. He's signed a few of those good ones, and actually, as part of his managerial skills, one of his skills is that he's got a bit of scouting nous, and he knows the market a wee bit as well. So he's either better at picking out the guys who are proposed to him in terms of how he wants those guys to play, or actually he's capable of sitting down and turning on the telly and watching some football games. Because see, these guys that are in our scouting department and stuff like that, they should be getting their jotters. It's incredible that we can be in this situation that we don't have names lined up for people that are achievable targets. And you'll say, well, okay, it's January, it's a notoriously hard window. There's lots of teams there in Croatia and Belgium, loads of leagues where if you go and offer them a few million, they can't turn it down.
Totally.
So it's a nonsense, that, for me. I don't know.
It is, and like the whole there's a lot of great comments in here. There's too many to kind of to actually echo. So if you're watching the stream, keep your eyes on the chat because it is coming in. But we've got Catholic United in the house, who is the team that Celtic are here sponsor down south. Carter Vickers, OG kind of a grassroots academy team. Good to see you in the live chat. Thanks for joining us. But I think we're all in that kind of agreement that the recruitment has gone downhill. There was a markable difference when Ange first came in, and I think it was that kind of changing of guard that was happening at Celtic, and he was the senior man. Like if you look at all the people that are there, like Ange probably outranks him in so many ways. If he's walking into the building saying, phone up Montreal and buy Alistair Johnson, and then tell Union Berlin will accept their offer, and then do this, and then do you can just imagine him going in and just commanding, and just like, this is what we're doing, this is the plan, and people just going, nay bother, Big Ian, and charging on with it. And now it feels like, from the outside, could very much imagine it being, like Three Blind Mice. Like everyone's just kind of, what are you doing today? I don't know. What were you doing today? Well, what did you do last month? Or what are we doing next week? When's the meeting? Who are we signing? Oh, is it January? How much money have we got? And it just feels so like, I hear a lot of people saying this about the agents that we know and the networks that we deal in. And it didn't feel like that as much with Ange. We could sign Juranovic from Poland, which fair enough, maybe the club's got those kind of links, but we can go to Japan, we can go to Holland and get a Giacomakis. There was lots of, different markets we were touching into. I know the Benfica kid became a bit of a meme recently, but it wasn't before Jota, like Jota was the first guy that we got. It was like that since like the Man City loans that we used to get, like a Paddy Roberts or something, So, and it doesn't feel like that's possible anymore. It feels like we need to be offered a player, we need to be contacted. Sidney Van Hooydonk's come up in this chat as well. And Celtic have been royally mugged off in this window with the whole Sidney Van Hooijdonk thing, who I'm not a massive fan of, really, to be honest with you. And there was two deals this month. I forget what the second one was now, but there's two deals this month that we were just made absolute fools on. Owen Beck, that was exactly it. Yeah, just made absolute fools of, and in every way, shape, and form. Like, and I listened to Axom, and they were saying on their streams that they had a night with Pierre Van Hooijdonk, and kind of like off mic, they were saying to him what's going on with the boy Sydney, and it hasn't been on. It's never a deal that was ever on or anything like that. I don't. And again, I'm not really into going into Sidney Van Hooijdonk as a Celtic target or whatever, but us taking Ida and then them getting Van Hooijdonk and then the whole Beck thing, like it's just amateur hour from start to finish, and it's just like unacceptable to the point now where the worries and fears that we've had this season so far are very justified, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think apart from anything, even if you were being more defensive of the situation, which is quite hard, if you look at it and you see Peter Lawwell, Mark Lawwell, Gavin Strachan, and another Strachan or whatever, then if it goes wrong, then you're subject to this criticism as well. If it goes wrong and you've brought in the guy that was the scout for Salzburg and the guy that was the scout for whatever. Now, I think Mark Lawwell did he not have a job at Man City or a good job in the City group? So I'm not saying that he doesn't have a talent in a way, because the City group is really shit hot at that. I mean, one of the things they do is you've got your Girona, you've got your Ange. Ange came over here, and getting him was at the time something that none of us were actually that happy about. Who's this guy? I don't know him. And then we took to him and all that type of stuff. But flipping back to what's happening just now, there's either change needed at the club or there's a change of strategy needed at the club. Whether that is Peter Lawwell saying, all right, well, these guys are brilliant at doing the grass, but I'm going to put it out to tender and I'm going to pick somebody that's cheaper, and then the grass is rubbish. What I find with people in life is that there's sometimes people that when they get money, they're generous, and there's sometimes people when they get money, they're uber tight, and that's one of the reasons why they got money. And Peter Lawwell comes across to me as a guy who would be uber tight, but pretty generous with his dividends, or pretty generous with his own earnings. And, I'm doing a great job here and I'm making everybody money. And the problem at Celtic is that Celtic isn't controlled by the fans. It's in our hands, and that if everybody says, well, I'm not renewing my season ticket next season, then the club's stumped. But there's 11,000 or something waiting list, I think, for season tickets. So just a couple of people saying that they're not going to go is not going to actually change anything. But the problem is the overall sort of structure of it, where you've got Desmond Dermot, whatever you want to call him, don't care. A guy who is a billionaire, and none of us are actually asking him to put his hand in his pocket. We're putting our hand in our pockets. What we're asking him to do is allow the money in the club to be spent. And I just find that incredible that we've had spells in the past where maybe we've been really susceptible. Somebody comes in with 10 million for Frimpong or whatever it was, right? 9 million, and he's out the door. Okay, we paid $1 million for this guy. We owe the City Group something. We're going to incorporate a sell on. He's away. Congratulations, you're really good, but you're off-ski. And we've been in those situations. I think that was January. Now we're in a situation where we know that even if we didn't get in the Champions League next season, which still seems inconceivable to me, that we've still actually have got money and everything in the bank, albeit we'll probably tied a lot of these guys down to good wages and all that sort of stuff, and you've got to kind of plan a wee bit further ahead. So we're not asking anybody to gamble on getting in the Champions League, but if we really spent £6 or £7 million on a left back, would that in any way jeopardise what's happening at the club? I mean, it just wouldn't. We're run as a PLC or whatever, right? So a lot of stuff is public and the accounts and everything, and they declare amounts. So that's got to be right. Well, we have actually got money and we've got rid of people and we've not spent hee-haw, which is just, we're not even asking for development players or a chance that guys are going to be good. We're just asking to actually address the stuff that the manager's asked for, and that's a huge problem, because if he regards that as not being backed in the market or whatever, then that's when it could potentially get a bit toxic, where he starts coming out and saying, yeah, well, I've asked for quality and you've not given me it, and well, if I don't win the league, well, that's your fault, all that type of stuff. And then you've got this lack of unity between the people at the top and the manager, because you would never hear Ange Postecoglou come out, and I've never heard him say something like that. But he takes a more hands-on strategic approach to the club. And when he was talking, he was saying sometimes we'll need to be ruthless, sometimes we'll need to allow the club to move on and buy somebody, be active, turn people over, and that'll be for the club being better. But then the season where we need to step it up, he's not there, and then we're just back to square one again after making the money on Jota and getting in the Champions League and performing well financially. We've not taken it that step, and it's just you see players moving. We look at it, Sorare, is that good or is that bad? That talent going, they've identified him, and they're all over the place, and none of them are coming to Celtic, which is just. I don't get it. So many left backs out there. I'm right.
Do we add Scott McKenna going to Copenhagen? There's another one of the muggins off, or another one that's just came to me. The goalkeeper that went to Brentford, the 5th choice Brentford keeper that we wanted.
Yeah. Well, I think the difficulty as well is that we're always linked to multiple players, and one thing I always find funny is we'll talk about the Rangers, right? Diamonde, good player, and people say things like, oh, I wish we were in for him, but there's hundreds of thousands of players in world football, and it's quite unlikely, unless there's a story in the media, that you're always going to be linked or interested in the actual same player as what Rangers are interested in. What we're saying is we want to be linked in buying good quality players, and you can even see a difference in strategy across different clubs as well. Clement comes in, he seems to kind of know the market. He's managed in other leagues before, like Club Brugge he was at, so he's probably used to the types of players you've got to look at for that level to bring in and improve the team and all that sort of stuff. So you can see that, although there's various issues with signings in both sides of the East or the West End or whatever. So it's just, I don't know. I just find it dead deflating. Like at this point, usually you would be thinking, well, if we get something up their sleeve. And I remember the year where we signed Jota, and you seen him and he was flying about. Like, he's not signing somewhere. He might be signing with us. And then they done the whole thing, and they were trying him. We're buzzing. We're never going to get this guy, and we signed him, and everybody's all absolutely hyped, and just whether or not it's a damp squib of a window, there's not a lot of big deals going through. I get that, but there's not a lot of big deals going through for clubs who are already maxed out on their their financial rules because they're spending more than they should, and we seem to be totally on the opposite end of the spectrum, where it's like, oh, we've got some money now, why don't we do it? We'll sit and look at it in the bank, we'll not do anything with that. Oh no, because that will affect Big Peter's bonus and Christmas, so we'll need to make sure he's getting his bonus next Christmas, whether we get in the Champions League. So let's just sit and look at that. Maybe it'll make us some interest now. The interest rates have went up. Bloody hell.
I remember when we sold Edward to Crystal Palace, I was saying to my neighbours, like, oh, we got a good fee for him and all the rest of it. And I'll never forget this. He turned around and he said to me, why do you care? It's no your money. You know, they're not going to spend it. You know, it's just gone in the bank now. It's no, well, who cares how much we sell players for? That was the kind of response at the time. And I've always had that in the back of my head. It isn't my money. Why do I care how much money they're going to get for a player? Because we're not seeing anything back for it at this stage, you know. So it does kind of take a little bit of the joy out of everything. There's a great, the reason that was in my head is in line with what you said, and I've kind of lost it here in the chat, but they brought up a great Twitter thread that I think we're all seen, where someone had went back and broke down the transfer history over the last like 20 years and how many players were under $1 million and how many were under $2 million, etc. I'll see if I can find the comment and bring it up, but it's that bargain basement stuff, like you say with the Bruges example. You do need to get your hands dirty with a bit of that, but you do need to make the team better. You know, you do need to say, right, there's some money. We need a left back. We need a keeper. We need a this. We need a that. Like we've all said, the writing was on the wall this January with, if we want to push on, guarantee winning the league, then there's some reinforcements that's needing done. You know, there's some enhancements that the squad needs. And there's just, it doesn't seem like, the most annoying thing for all of us as fans is there seems to be no effort or care. The one thing that we always try and give them allowances with is, well, they're probably trying their hardest, but there seems to be as if like nobody knows what's even going on. Never mind, like they're doing their best for it, sort of thing. So it's absolutely frustrating and baffling. And this transfer market as well, don't let us look. We've got a lot of viewers here joining us live, by the way. Well done. Thanks to you all. Hail, hail. Please do drop a like, whatever wherever you're catching this on Twitter or X or Facebook or YouTube or whatever. It just lets those social media platforms we're having a good time, and maybe they'll push us out to a few more people and we'll get some more people joining the party tonight. Awesome. Maybe a party. Some people reckon we'll get some last minute signings. Because like this window so far, see with like if we do shift out Turnbull, we have had Tilley out on loan. Maybe Forrest goes to Wales as well. There has been a bit of housekeeping done in this window, but there's been no ambition. There's been no attempt to really improve the team ever so much. You know, getting some of these players off the wages, maybe getting some fees in, maybe relieves a little bit of the financial pressure if there is any, you know. But there's no, it's like one person is working there, you know. Like this is the work of one man selling these players this month. You know, one guy to answer emails and phone calls and transfer paperwork and do medicals or whatever is needing done. There should be departments of them, you know.
Yeah, is the Lagerbielke thing off now? I'm presuming they've just said he can't go. Then they just put a stop on it. Maybe it'll still be announced. The latest I had seen was that Celtic wouldn't put a stop on it. He still wanted to go. I mean, so looking through there, it doesn't look as if anybody's wanted Sigris. There's been an acceptable deal. Yuki Kobayashi could maybe still go to Japan. I think their window is actually still open because their league's not started yet. So I think actually Yokohama can still sign some players. Vickers, we don't know what's actually happening with him. Iwata, we don't get told of injuries or whatever. He's not been in a squad yet. We don't know what's happening with him. I seen the thing with Rio Hatate and it was his calf and he was stinging it, you know, so how serious is that going to be? Dyson, Yang, they're all still away. Obviously, the Asian Cup might be out soon, might not be, I don't know, but they're not going to make this weekend. They're not going to make midweek either. I mean, it just seems really telling that we all think that we have actually signed Ida, but Celtic are scared to actually put the post up because they're just going to get absolutely annihilated. And a few comments, I do understand people say, well, Diamondi's been playing for North Island and all that sort of stuff. As soon as that guy's name was mentioned, I knew who he was. I think as a judgment, I think he's good. He plays for a team where Ajax go and buy Kudus for 15 million, and you know there's a striker there, and West Ham are trying to sign him for 15 million. And what the Rangers, as I call them, are doing is they're actually signing a guy with an obligation this summer. So they're spending their money for the summer, and we're not even spending money that we've got just now. So So there we go.
That's part of that silver lining, I think, with this Ida loan is we're not wasting resources, capital. We're also paying this guy's wages, a loan fee or something like that. Connor, I've got no idea why you're asking me that, but the thought of us signing Vanja Milinkovic-Savic from Torino would be incredible. If you can just imagine like a Serbian Fraser Foster, that's kind of what we would be getting. I don't know why you think we would be in for him. We'd be, well, again, a lot of people think we were in for Kelleher. I've seen Nottingham Forest put a bid in for 15 million quid and Liverpool rejected it. So I think Milinkovic-Savic, the goalkeeper that is, he's got a brother that plays midfield, you've probably all heard of, but I think he would be a similar price tag, if not more. So I'm excited why you've asked me this, but I'm also thinking it's just not happening.
Yeah. Well, I think he nailed the Serbian place as well, because it was a big peg, Rajkovic. He was the number one, and then they had Bartholomew Dragowski, the guy who used to play with Fiorentina, and then he lost his place and stuff, and then Vanja got the sort of place and stuff as well. That's better, but I'm not spelling it. But yeah, I mean, Milinkovic-Savic would be a really good goalkeeper signing, but then he's playing regularly in Serie A and stuff as well. And like, are we? And it's frustrating, but are we actually in that bracket of signing somebody like that? I mean, I don't know. Like, Angus Gunn's a shout. The thing with Angus Gunn is that he'll again come with a sort of English leagues tax, and that he's playing in the Championship, and the Cardiff can come and pay us $2 million for a guy who's got 6 months left in his contract, and we're happy to get rid of. So, there's probably a lot more money in the Championship overall than there is in Scotland, but Celtic and Rangers have the huge advantage of having the finances in the European football and all that sort of stuff ahead of the other sort of clubs as well. So yeah, I don't know if we're in that sort of region for Milinkovic-Savic or whatever, but as I said before, I really wouldn't be surprised if we signed Joe Hart on a contract extension. Like, just wouldn't be surprised about it at all. But I think that's a wee bit different from the Greg Taylor situation, because Bernabei wasn't even in the Champions League squad, so he was fit. We never even registered him. And all of a sudden, you're then trotting out Aberdeen away, Hibs away, and your only recognised left back is Bernabei or the young lad Frame, who's like 17 or whatever. So might well be a good player, but like, would you really want to, in this 60 million Champions League fight, be going into these away games with a 17-year-old? Like, I don't like. It's just mad.
It's far too much of a gamble for the position of strength that we should be in. We should be absolute streets ahead. Even the way the seasons went, we have been dropping points criminally. We've not looked good, either. So there is a balance to some of this as well. Again, I see some people saying the recruitment team's been the same the whole time. The difference is Ange and Brendan. Maybe Brendan's a bit more easy-ozy and maybe not commanding what the target should be as much, or really steering the ship. And there's also the argument of the team could be actually kicking ass on the pitch. We are very crap to watch over the last month or two. It is painful. It is excruciating. And it doesn't feel like we can cut teams open at the moment for one reason or another. So there's a lot of different frustrations I feel that kind of just get on top of each other in this window for Celtic, because we all it's because of how amazing and how special the club is, first and foremost, that we see this new, and maybe I'm speaking for people, right? But for me, right, you see this new Champions League format coming and you think that is the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow we've been waiting for. Some sort of extra European league exposure where we can really, strut, get the feathers out and, show Celtic Park for what it is, be the 12th man, get those home results, start to put the best of European football to the sword again. And with that type of money, then we can get back to signing the quality of player that we used to have early millennium for the first 10, 12 years, which we've not been anywhere near against. But even if we are going to be in this new modern football where we have to trade players and all that crap, we're not even, again, the comments, we've not even got a distinct style. See, when Bernabei plays, I was blown away to see him at the weekend playing inverted fullback. Well, are we staying with inverted fullback now with Rodgers, even though it's not Taylor, who we thought that was just the only way you could get a good game out of him? But Bernabe, you would think, well, imagine he's the opposite. But against Ross County, he's playing inverted fullback. So it's like, I'm just so confused with what's even going on so many levels.
Yeah, it's kind of almost as if he's watched Greg Taylor and thought, that's what he does, so that's what I should do. I mean, I think from Rodgers' point of view, we all agreed that his tactics were pretty good in Europe. I know we get hammered at Atletico Madrid, but Feyenoord game, we played pretty well in the first half, and we never sat back as much as we thought maybe we would, and we could see the goal late on all went ski whiff. We probably should have beat Lazio at home. We did beat Feyenoord at home. We gave Atletico Madrid a good game at home, not away. So, I think maybe sometimes, like when you're just playing at home and the other team sits in, then some of the actual skills he has in terms of that tactical nous or whatever really just don't have any effect at all. And it's just about, are the players good enough to actually create the chances here? But that's what confuses me, where you sign a guy who's 6'3" and I don't know if he's ever scored a header in his life. If we had brought Danny Ings in, right? Danny Ings has scored goals in the EPL. He's quite strong. And I remember at one point like picking him in my fantasy football team and stuff like that. He'll score against them, and that type of thing I could kind of understand, because that's like, we're going to sign this guy with no intention of paying huge money for him, but he's going to come in to chip in some goals until the end of the season. So Ida just thinks of, he's a young guy. No, he's Irish. He'll want to come to Celtic. We'll get him. It just stinks. It just doesn't seem as if there's any real sort of actual plan. If Bromby don't want to sell Kavesgarden or whatever, that's fine. But we probably just don't want to spend the $6 million on him or something. That's probably more likely that we just don't want to spend the money on him than they don't want to sell him, to be brutally honest. They've just sold like Evgen to Bodo Glimt and stuff like that. These teams don't have much money either. If you go and you offer them money, then it's not very often that they're actually in a position themselves to turn it down. And
we are heavyweights, and these teams aren't they? We are heavyweights. We should be acting like it.
That's only when we open the biscuit tin, though, Quinny. We're actually, when we open the biscuit tin, then we're heavyweights. And are there any positives? I mean, Vickers in a long-term deal is a positive as long as he sorts his injury issues. He's been pretty injury prone. People have said about recruitment. I like Nawrocki. I mean, I'm glad we've got Nawrocki there in terms of coming in for him. I think he'll do well. He's come into some games and he come on against Rangers and stuff, and he was quite positive. So maybe he'll get his chance to prove that he's good. But I mean, it's just this whole Lagerbielke thing as well. He's away. He's going to Italy. We want to call him back. He doesn't want it anymore. He wants to go, and you're thinking, well, surely they must have known that Carter Vickers was injured at that point. Like, what point did he get injured? It's like, at what point does he actually get injured? When does he get injured? Does he get injured opening his fridge in the house, or was he walking down the stairs? Or I don't. Just seems a wee bit unusual.
That is crazy.
It's bonkers.
I think the line I heard was he wasn't responding to the rehab after the last game, and it put them on kind of high alert. Obviously, Welsh has got a wee bit of the injuries about him as well. Kobayashi's not left. I was really excited for Lagerbielke to go to Verona, because this is the sort of deal we should be doing with these tertiary players. Do another Ideguchi, loan him out somewhere, let him get a couple of games, and then try and make £500,000 on him. And then, what a terrible transfer deal that was. You've got out of it at least with a bit of pride somehow. But I think if they're holding him back, I do fear. What was the first thing I said to you when Carter Vickers signed? He's too injured to be sold. This is as good as it gets. I don't think he'll pass a medical for another team. And I think he accepts, I'm just going to stay at Celtic and be the man. He's not going to make the mistakes that other idiots have made, where they think, I could go and take over the world now, and then they go and sit on the bench for Norwich or something, Gary Hoopers and all these other guys over the years, So I was really excited about it. And then when you see this right off the cusp of it, but it does make you a bit frustrated that we've gave really a big contract to damaged goods, ultimately. I love Vickers and all the rest of it, right? But it's kind of like Forrest. Now people are looking at Forrest going, we just gave this guy a really big contract last year. And I know we maybe get him out to Cardiff and all the rest of it, but good business and bad business is a fine line when injuries come into it as well, and effectiveness. So I'm really happy. I love Vickers, don't get me wrong, but I do think now that I think it's there for all to see. I don't think you ever need to worry about selling Carter Vickers again.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, the question would be, why have you given the guy a 5-year deal when his two knees aren't working right? Now, that's a bit extreme. Maybe he's just had a bit of bad luck. And also, I think the thing with the muscle overload, etc., could also be linked to games. But then if you flip it around as well, Hatate's not played many games. So yeah, I've seen somebody saying, oh, well, Hatate's away with Japan. But Hatate went with Japan. He was on the bench. He got 15 minutes. He came on, he performed, and then he got a start, and then he broke down. So it's not like he's playing every 3 days or anything. He got taken away and he won his place in the team, and then he's broken down. So maybe that's, just a touch of bad fortune. And, it might be bad fortune, like nothing to do with Celtic. Like Real Madrid have had like how many ACLs this season? Like 4 or 5 or something. Like, it's just like, it's like Courtois and Vinicius Junior get injured, not an ACL. Militao done his ACL. I mean, it was incredible the amount of actual injuries that they had. And the thing with Vickers, did we mismanage his rehab? Well, he had a month off, so he had a full month off. He never played since Christmas. He was off the whole of January. He never featured in the Bucky Thistle game. So instead of saying, right, we'll give you 20 minutes at the end, he get left out of that. And then Rodgers says, yeah, we think he's ready now. So I don't really, he said like 5 weeks off. So how long does he need off, if that makes sense? I don't really get it. Or maybe we've thrown him in. What we should have done is maybe say, right, Navrocki, you're going to play this game, and Vickers will play 20 minutes at the end rather than the other way around. But I mean, when he came off, it just looked to me as if it was perfectly planned. We've done that before. It's like, right, it's 60 minutes or whatever. We never thought he would last the full game. It's happened before. When he's come back for injuries, he's not. Rodgers changed centre-backs later on in the game. Even when we played Feyenoord, Welsh played, and then he had to take Welsh off at the end. Didn't think he was going to make the game. Lagerbielke come on and they scored. So, that's happened loads of times, so they didn't have to be injured at that point. But yeah, it's a bit of a mad one. In terms of how Lagerbielke's been treated and all that sort of stuff, well, there's rumours that it wasn't like our scouting thing. It was like, well, Starfelt was leaving and Starfelt's agent recommended him. I think he won like the Player of the Year or something in Sweden. Or the club's Player of the Year. He definitely won something.
Defender of the Year.
Defender of the Year. So obviously Rodgers looked at him and said, well, you're a Defender of the Year over there, but you're still too slow, I don't like this or whatever. So, you're no my cup of tea or whatever. But again, it just shows that there's a dysfunction between the manager and the actual recruitment department. So you just wonder whether or not he's giving them a nod and saying, okay, I'll let that through. But then he's giving them a nod and then realising that what they've delivered isn't really sort of good enough type thing. Or whether or not they've been bringing them players all of January and he's just been saying, no, I'm not signing this guy. No, that's not good enough. See, if you want to sign with somebody, just sign with somebody good. Just don't bother at all. We'll go with Greg Taylor, and then Greg Taylor gets injured, So there's definitely some sort of issue there, and that with all these sort of talented players around world football, that we can't go and actually identify a left back who we think is better than Bernabei. Because even if you think Bernabei is not bad, he's had other issues, training things, all that sort of stuff, been left out of squads because of disciplinary reasons. He is a younger guy and he's in a foreign country and all that sort of stuff, and he does have some stuff about him, but sometimes just looks like a complete headless chicken as well. Just like you're like, what's going on here? Like, you're supposed to be back there, and all that sort of stuff. So yes, it's just
even defensively at the weekend he was a wee bit ropey. But John Mulaney's asking, who do we think is accountable for this? And somebody referenced earlier, we should be maybe digging into South America a little bit more, and I think this ties into what we're saying. But Mark Lobby, when he came in from Yokohama, he came in from CFG, the thing that came with him is he's a South American aficionado. He knows a thing or two over there. We're linked to Ortega, I forget his first name. We signed Bernabei, and then we're never linked to anyone else. And if you follow any of the transfer cycles around there, and obviously me and you, McBride, are quite close to a lot of these little networks of transfers that go around that part of the world. There's lots of activity, lots of high quality players that are either moving to America or moving to European teams of a similar kind of standing to us. Maybe a few of them are moving to the Premier League as well, like the kid Barco at left back going to Brighton, and one or two other bits and pieces. But there's no shortage of cheap talent there. Now, I don't know if we're maybe in this funny position with Bernabeu, but it's like a once bitten, twice shy thing where they think, oh, well, that's not worked out. Let's not do that again. But who is accountable? I don't know. But I think someone has to be, if this window finishes the way it looks like it's finishing, someone has to get sacked. And then we will know exactly we'll know what the problem's being. We're all kind of in the dark. Some people think it's the manager. Some people think it's this. Some people think it's that. None of us actually know. But a head should roll. And then we'll know, the scouts were doing fuck all. Or the guy that's meant to be picking the talent doesn't know a player, or the man, probably not going to be the manager gets sacked for the January window. But if there is something, and maybe if there isn't anything that happens internally, maybe it is Rodgers like not signing people, because again, he said to me when he came back, a big part of the job is not saying yes to players, and just signing them because they're available. So I think we kind of maybe know in the aftermath a bit better who's accountable, but someone should be accountable. And if no one does get bagged for this or gets made a scapegoat for it, and I'm not putting people's jobs out there and as willy-nilly, if that makes sense. But at the end of the day, it's a high pressure performance environment. And if Celtic, again, I was saying this to you, I've seen it on the channel somewhere, but it's starting to feel like that season we don't like talking about, and if it goes that way and we don't do the job this season, I don't want to conjure anything up, so I'm not going to say too much, but like it's high pressure, it's performance, it's result driven. In this window, we come into it with a very clear remit of players, and nowhere near that clear remit of players was another winger, which is all we've got so far. So it's an abject failure. There's no two ways about it at this stage.
Yeah. So what you're saying is we need to recruit a recruiter. It's like, so I mean,
or a scout, or a director of football to kind of oversee something, or can at least. So again, there's no clear like style of play. That's one of the things that we all keep saying. There's not a lot of joined up thinking from the looks of it.
Yeah, I mean, so you look at other clubs who do this on a sort of permanent basis, and you look at Salzburg, and they have a huge turnover, right? So the current crop of guys at Salzburg are nowhere near what the crop was before. I don't really think they're that good. But also there's been a huge actual turnover because they have a real model of we're just going to sell these guys on. But also when a manager leaves Salzburg, they have somebody else who comes in who's talented to bring in. And that's also a thing where it's, well, if this guy who's been really good at establishing the players moves on to the Bundesliga in Germany or whatever, we're going to get the next talented person through. And again, that is down to the actual recruitment process as well. It's like, how are you actually getting somebody in here? Is it like Chris Boyd having a job on Sky? One of the worst commentators I've ever seen in my life. Fails to analyse a game, biased, but it's a job for the boys type thing. He's got he's even on Celtic games as well. Like, what are you doing commenting a Celtic game? I don't want to hear what you're saying. I turn it off. I turn the volume down, unless something's happened and he's absolutely raging, in which case I turn it up and I actually piss myself laughing. But what's that got to do with what's happening here? Well, you've got a situation where you've got like, the Strachan's and stuff there, and maybe they are actually in some way qualified for that. Maybe the young guy did work as a pro at the golf club before, but now he does recruitment, and he had this skills agency, and he's doing well and all that sort of stuff. But just leaves you open to, when things go wrong, people are going to say, well, actually at this level of club is the way that we're actually appointing these people the correct way. What is your qualifications for the job? Oh, well, you look as if you're okay and you're called Lawwell. Well, that's you're a shoe-in for the job. You're called Strachan. The manager was called Strachan. Actually, we've still got a guy called Strachan here. Why don't we give him a job? That's brilliant, by the way. We'll give him a job. Nobody will complain about that because Gordon will be happy because it's his son. So, and I loved wee Strachan. I mean, people never really liked him and all that sort of stuff, and he gets slagged for the style of playing. But he had better European results than a lot of the managers after him, and he still gets slagged and all that sort of stuff. So, I'm not saying that people don't have a good role at the club, but there's something that's not working. So either there needs to be a change or there needs to be an addition there where you say, well, you do that job, but we're going to bring in this guy to help you, or we're going to bring in this guy to run it better, or this guy's going to step back or whatever, or Mark Lawwell's going to actually go back and do a job in the City group and do what he's doing there, but it's not going to be a direct job for for Celtic, you know, it'll be within the group, but we'll bring in somebody who really can move us on to the next level. Because as you know, Quinny, like, you know, the guys who take you at a certain level are not always the guys who are going to take you to the next level. That's the problem. We're at a level now where we want to actually keep improving. So, you know, the guys who take us to that level might not be the guys who can pick out the actual targets that are going to automatically improve a team. They might still be looking for projects or whatever. We use that word a lot, but that's been the whole ethos of the scouting. Whereas now you should be looking at a level above that and saying who's going to come in and actually play well next week. You know that guy's good, you know, that type of thing. And it doesn't really seem actually to be happening. And then the other thing with Ida, to come back to him, is it smacks a wee bit of the Nat Phillips thing. You know, it's like we need a centre back, and okay, Rodgers get contacts and he's got somebody for Liverpool, and we needed a centre half at that point, and it never worked out very well, and they looked rotten. This stinks a bit of that. It's like, all right, we've not managed to sign anybody. How are we going to get a striker in here? But that's not a coherent plan. We've had how long? We've known since the very start of the window who was or wasn't going to the Asian Cup. So we knew we were going to be in this situation at the end of the month. We knew that it was highly likely South Korea and Japan being amongst the favourites. They would not be out at this point, and the guys would not be back by this weekend. And we're still bringing in Adam Ida at this point. It's like it's just very disappointing. I've managed not to cry on the YouTube though, but maybe at 11:30 when the window shuts and we've not actually got anybody we can do so then. But I just don't. It's a weird position we're in as well, because we're top of the league as well. You know, like we've won the last 6 games. I think we've 5 clean sheets, conceded 1 goal against Rangers from a free kick. And the only thing I don't agree with is actually booing at full time at the weekend. I said that to you before, Quinny. Like, you know, if the players win and they're still standing there and it's full time, I've give them a wee clap, let them come off, and then start shouting at the board or whatever. But actually booing the team up, whatever, I don't really get that. You know, you've won, all right, you've not played well, but we're still winning. You know, when we do lose a game, boo it or whatever. But yeah, if you want to make your thoughts clear on the board and stuff, then definitely do it. Congregate outside Parkhead, get the Sharks out, whatever, you know. But if you win 1-0, you missed the same penalty twice, create loads of chances that you missed. Don't boo them. You know, these guys are trying their best. It's not their fault that the recruitment's rotten or whatever we feel it is, or that the board needs to be changed. They're out there trying their best. So when Ida comes in, we're going to have to get behind him and hope that he does well, as everybody will. It's just, is that the way we should be going? I don't know. That's just...
Yeah. I don't think... So the problem with the striker position is it has to be somebody that's not going to be threatened by Kyogo, is going to be happy for Kyogo to probably be the main man, unless he has been in really bad form this year, as we all know. But he does need someone that's going to maybe threaten the position and put him under a bit more pressure to deliver. And, you know, like I say, they have to be happy to kind of cow down. And if it's only a 6-month loan, it's probably easier to manage that dynamic, let's say, on the training ground and in the changing room than if we went and signed Miovski for 4 or 5 million and maybe we don't actually want him. I say, I know a lot of people here still think that he should be the guy to go for, but obviously Rodgers doesn't think so. And if we want better quality than that is maybe what he's trying, if we're giving the manager a bit of the benefit of the doubt for a moment, if he's trying to hold out for better quality, I think loaning a guy that we've got minimal outlay on is probably better than signing a guy that we're then going to be Lagerbielkid with later on. You know, yeah. We've got too many strikers all of a sudden, and it's like, oh, can we loan this guy to Verona? You know, or can we sell him to Heerenveen or whatever? So again, like it's really hard to get full angry or full apologetic because it's so difficult. But ultimately, I say the one thing that is unescapable is that it's just unacceptable, the results that we've been given, you know, and it's just by who is kind of the real question mark. Bernabe coming out of the cold as well to be the main left back for the next month or something it's just a good kind of meme of it all. I've been refreshing the whole Twitter for the last for most of the stream to see if we've got anything kind of breaking in, because I was kind of hopeful with us getting some cash flow going out that maybe there was another wee biscuit tin moment, but it's like, okay, cool, well, we've got Forrest and Turnbull and Johnson out. Let's click the button and get the goalkeeper in or get the left back in. and somebody would just turn up all of a sudden. But I'm losing faith with that.
Well, I was actually doing exactly the same thing there. So there we go, great minds think alike. I mean, like you were saying it, like Kilmarnock and St Mirren and stuff are trying to sign Kevin Van Veen. I was saying, I wouldn't really have minded of taking Kevin Van Veen on loan for the second half of the season. I mean, he gave us all sorts of problems when he was at Motherwell. I'm not saying he's the answer or whatever, but he scored goals in Scotland anyway. So, you know, that type of thing, like, you know, may well have made sense. I just don't like with Ida, and it's no offense to the guy himself, it's the actual profile of the type of player that we've signed, and the fact that it just doesn't really seem to overall make sense. And that, okay, he's young, and he's had some caps for Ireland, and he's a striker, but there's no buy option, so, or there's no obligation to buy him or whatever, so we're just bringing him in to help out the numbers. But then if we do want to buy him, if he does really well, then the better he does, the more money we're going to have to pay for him. Whereas if we'd have brought in a target man guy, you know, a guy like, you know, used to be like Lyndon Dykes or whatever, you know, like he's like by no means the world's best footballer, by no means a guy you would maybe even aspire to have for Celtic. But if you wanted to chuck somebody on and you had to put it into the mixer in the last 15 minutes, you really needed a goal. He's the type of guy you'd want standing in the middle to get on the end or something. And you've got Palma doing, you know, when he eventually beats a guy, he puts the ball across and Kyogo standing there like, oh, that's 10 foot above me. Or you've got, you know, whoever goes down the right-hand side, they beat a guy and they look in the middle, go, I better not cross it in there. They start turning back and, you know, that type of stuff. A Giacomakis, you know, if we could get a Gio, and I know why he left. He didn't want to play second fiddle. Ange wasn't happy with his attitude to that, and Ange was ruthless. And, you know, you can go. Top scorer in Holland. He scored like 19 in 30 games in the MLS. He scored goals for us, scored important goals. Fans loved him. You know, he could get his head on the end of the ball, that type of thing. So if we were able to get that type of guy, now maybe they feel that's so. I don't know. I mean, O's young and he's improving and all that type of stuff, but. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we've got the money to do better. That's the main thing. It's just we just don't really have any excuse for not saying, okay, let's not take a risk with this. You know, we'll just spend 4 or 5 million on somebody, and you know, if they come in and they're maybe Furu needs to get dropped. You know, he's not scoring a few goals. You say, well, this guy's going to play, and then you create a bit of competition, and all of a sudden Furuhashi actually ups his game a wee bit, you know, so I'm under pressure here. This guy's take my place for a couple of games. I'm desperate to get back in, and then the next time he comes in, he makes sure that he doesn't fluff his lines or whatever. It's just, you know, it's like when a competition can actually drive you forward sometimes as well, where you think, well, I better score this next one because see if I don't, he's going to be starting midweek. Whereas at the moment it's just like, well, Furuhashi's going to start, and then he's not really involved. The system doesn't really get him properly involved in the game the way he can be. I don't know what the answer to that with the low block is. I mean, the problem with the low block is that it's a low block and he likes to run in behind. Not so. You see how many times we've been at Celtic Park watching the game together. Look at that run Furuhashi's made, nobody finds him. Yeah. It happens over in Europe and everything over and over. He's on the run, but we just don't really have the players capable of playing that pass or making that movement or having that combination that gets him in there. Or you just think, well, why are you wasting your energy? He's not going to pass the ball to you. Why don't you just stand there and then just wait and just use your energy in a different way once there's a different phase of play? But he keeps doing it. That's his natural instinct. I'm going to make that run. And then nobody passes it. Gaz is saying, just give the ball to Palma. I mean, Palma is quite effective, but he's not Jota. I mean, Mark Patrick Rea said that he would say that Palma's better than Jota, and my question to that would be, what type of drugs is Mark Patrick Rea taking when he made that statement? I'll tell him that myself. I don't know if he's watching tonight. I know he couldn't make it, but Palma definitely is effective and stuff, but Jota had other qualities, and also he was effective, and he scored goals in big games. He scored goals in Europe, you know, that type of stuff. So, do you know one thing
I was thinking about? See, with Jota being linked to West Ham, obviously that's died down. But do you think if we put a sell-on clause with the Saudi Arabian club, you think it'd be cheeky if we tried to cash that in? Like, see if they sell them for like a loss, and we've just obviously I don't think it'd have been a profit sell-on clause. I'd probably if there is one, I'm obviously just having a laugh here, but
they'll just not pay us. I mean, this is the thing about Saudi Arabia and stuff as well, is that like people say, "Oh, we're going to pay you 10 million a year in Saudi Arabia or whatever." Well, what are you going to do about it when you go over there and they don't give you your wages? Because I have been other players and stuff that went to places like Qatar, Saudi Arabia, whatever. They say, I've not been paid for months. So, you know, we live in a land where you've got employment laws and human rights, and you know, whereas over there sometimes they're a wee bit of a law unto themselves. So, you know, what's anybody going to do if they say, "Oh yeah, we're going to give you 20% when we sell them on," and you know, says, "No, we're not giving you 20% because we've lost money on them. You can bolt." You know, it's like, well, all right, what we're going to do. But I don't know if that was that type of deal. It seems like they were all paying us all pretty much up front, because you know we see these Chelsea deals and everything, they're paying teams over 8 years or whatever, whereas Saudi Arabia just come in and say, "We'll just give you the money now. We've got loads of money. You know, you're paying for our oil and all that sort of stuff. There you go. Yeah, 20 million. This guy's getting 10 million a year. That's nothing to us. We're paying him 40 million over 4 years. Like resale, but we don't care about that. Like, we're just trying to build a league. You know, it's bonkers. It really is bonkers. But you know, nobody's seen that coming. But then we've had the benefit of all the money from it. We've had that money. We knew we were getting the Champions League money. So if we weren't prepared to replace in that way in that window, then that would be a surprise. But how have we managed to be 6 months down the line and not secured any deals? Because by the way, you can sign somebody outside the window as well. You can go and agree to buy somebody and say you're coming in January. You can go and you can do a deal and say you want to come to Celtic in January. You can go and the window prevents you from signing somebody outside the window. You have seen who was at Chelsea. They went. It was like 15th of February or something. Chelsea have signed Nkunku. He's coming at the end of the season. That's the deal agreed. That's what a proactive club does. Not that Chelsea are doing that well, but you know they're.
I'd say Chelsea are hyperactive rather than proactive. They're just like a kid in a sweetie shop, you know.
Aye.
But there's a good comment brought up here, and we might have to file this eventually into the embarrassing Celtic kind of thing column. But Runarsson, the actual Iceland #1 goalkeeper, has had his contract at Arsenal terminated, and somebody was asking in the chat if we might be in for him. But I think he has already signed for Copenhagen to replace Grabara, who will be going off to Wolfsburg in the summer. So another, along with Gerbic, along with Valdermerson, along with, if you want to add in Moldovan, the guy that went to Atletico Madrid. There's been a half a dozen Pandur, half a dozen goalkeepers in our price budget move in this window that would have fit some metrics. I don't think we're holding our breath on goalkeepers, but after losing out to Livakovic. But did you see the Runarsson one?
Well, unbelievably enough, Quinny, I do own his card in Sorare, and also unbelievably enough, he's absolutely rotten. Cardiff fans hate him. But anyway, I don't know whether or not he really got a full sort of run there, but he was playing for Iceland, and he was out on loan to Turkey last season. Arsenal loaned him, he was out on loan to Konyaspor or something, played all season there, struggling to get a sort of loan, went to Cardiff, and Jack Alnwick's won the place over him. So I don't know if that would have been the sort of solution. Although if he was available on a free transfer, and if we managed to get Benjamin Seigrist out, and you bring him in, you have a look at him for 6 months, then I don't see how that could have been a big drawback. If he was good, you keep him. If he's not good, then you move on. But the goalie situation, Rogers said, as far as I could see, that he would sit down with Joe Hart and he would sort it out in the summer. So for me, I don't think we're even thinking about signing a goalkeeper just now. I think we're just trying to get Seigrist off the books, and it doesn't look as if anybody really has put forward a deal for wanting him. And again, that's the risk. We've had the guy there for so long. We don't say, all right, it's Bucky Thistle, why don't we give Benjamin Seigrist a game or whatever here? It's like, let's trot out Joe Hart. You know, like we never do stuff like that. We don't have a cup goalkeeper or whatever, even in the earlier rounds. And then we're wondering why we're struggling to get guys. Sort of moved on. What we could do, and it's happened before with Barkas, is if somebody comes along and they want him, you could rescind his contract. You just say, we'll just rip it up. You can move outside the window, or it might be that he moves somewhere that's still got a window that's open. Maybe if Harry Kewell fancies him at Yokohama, we know they need a goalkeeper, Quinny, don't they? Or they did sign a guy, but he signed him from the J League 2, I think, was it Pop? So maybe he feels they still need a goalkeeper. So I don't think all doors are naturally sort of shut on that. But in terms of the main UK windows and everything, then we're not going to be able to get anybody in, and a lot of teams obviously can't sign after tonight, isn't it? So I think there's some of the windows shut. So I think it's like Italy or something closed an hour ago or something. So some of the windows are actually sort of closed. So it's just baffling, because if we did really have somebody lined up, there's always been murmurs if it's him or whatever, and things coming out, it's him or it's him, and especially this window, because there was stuff about Kuhn for 2 weeks. We were disregarding it. As it turns out, we were actually interested in him. So I don't know what we're doing just now. I mean, if we asked for Sergio Gomez, then if we'd have pulled that off, then I would have been celebrating tonight, because he's a cracking player. But kind of seems to me as if we've got to the stage where we're like, right, that's not happened, we're down to bare bones now. What we do? Phone Man City. Do you get anybody? We've seen that Spanish guy. He looked very. I know he's good. Can you not send him to us? No, you want to keep him. All right, okay. Right, who else are we phoning? It's like, who else are we phoning now? Somebody send us the left back. Come on.
I'll say it again in the hope that somebody at Celtic is listening to this, but I know they won't be. But Alvaro Barreal is available for £3 million. That's the reported transfer fee that they want. That's fucking right down our alley, Yeah. But again, it's another Argentinian fullback. Maybe they don't want one of them. But Barreal is a player, proper legit.
4 hours to fax them and offer the money and get them to go to a medical and all that over in America, and that's the thing. Like you've just run out of time as well. You've got to do medicals. You've got to sign paperwork. You've got to agree terms. Stuff has to have been happening by this point, unless there's just somebody available on a loan and you just say, yeah, we'll just take him at that kind of wage or whatever. But there's still negotiations, if somebody's an EPL and they're on a big wage or whatever, it's like, well, we'll pay a proportion of it and all that. And, what's he going to earn whilst he's here? Unless they didn't want to actually get the Ida transfer out because they've got something else up their sleeve and they're going to announce it together. That's the only thing I think. Other than that, it's just a case of they know we're all raging and they're just not going to tell us. Just we'll wake up. It'll be the Daily Ranger tomorrow. We'll open the back pages. Oh, look, we've signed somebody, and there's no. They've got to announce them at some point, haven't they? So I don't know. Maybe there is. They want to do a joint announcement or whatever. But it's last minute dash. It's not exciting. It's disappointing. It's not that we're here and we're excited we might sign somebody. It's pure and utter disappointment that we've been left in this situation after we've all been talking about it for a while, probably since the last window where we were talking about what we were going to do and all that sort of stuff. Why have Celtic not been planning for that? It just seems daft.
Yeah, for sure. So looking at the squad now, McBride, right? We have mentioned some of maybe the positives of letting some of the wages off. But do we have enough in the tank to beat the Cream Buns as Q Force 1 is dropped to here for us? So Forrest is maybe almost, is he going to Cardiff? I'm not too sure. I've left him here because I'm not too sure how it's shaking out. But this is kind of how the squad sits. We still have an army of centre-backs ready at our disposal if we ever need to go to war with someone. Nobody really in midfield if the best three are out. And up front, it's kind of a pick and mix. How do you feel about the squad?
We should have enough to beat every single team in Scotland, and then we've got a 2-point gap, and then it comes down again to the Celtic Rangers games. I won't say the old word because I always get slagged for that, but and albeit we were extremely pessimistic about both games, we have won both of those games. We won 1-0 and we won 2-1. No doubt we'll get to April and we're thinking, oh yeah, we're going to go there and we're going to get beaten. I'm hoping we'll still get a result. But, there's a lot of things that can happen between now and then. How long's Hatate out for? How long's Vickers out for? What happens if Bernabei gets injured? Like, yeah, maybe that would be better. I don't know. Maybe that would be a result. Maybe that's a positive outcome. So, yeah, I mean, it's a kind of interesting one. It looks like we've probably got Turnbull out the door, which I think is good business. 6 months left in his contract. Apparently wanted more money. Don't think he really fitted in terms of, that point where he scored and he was doing a couple of years. See, as soon as he did that, I would have been finding him a club immediately at that point, because that is not on. But also, as I said earlier, if you win 1-0, as fans, maybe we shouldn't be booing the team either. But still, that type of reaction, you keep your head down, you work hard, you prove people wrong, you don't start going and giving it all of that. If we did go and say, okay, we'll get Majovski now, then that just wouldn't make any sense to me, because why have you signed either? I don't, I've kind of come round a wee bit to the idea of Majovski. I think he's definitely got some talents and stuff, but I don't know why we would bother doing it now if we have actually got either. In terms of middle of the park, I still think Celtic are really good middle of the park. McGregor, Riley, Bernardo's proven that he's come on a bit as well. Different options in there. Hopefully Rio come back at some point. Holmes scored in the cup. I think he's got potential. So we've got a lot of players in the middle of the park. We've got a lot of wingers and stuff now. But the areas we've been talking about for the whole season just haven't been addressed at all. So just doesn't really make much sense.
Yeah. It is baffling. As we come towards the end of the stream, we are like 3 or 4 or 3.5 hours away from the deadline. There is some optimism in the chat that Majovski maybe does come in, and there's a couple of last minute deals that will be done. My optimism faded, I think, maybe after the 8th of January, and I kind of had consigned myself to being a deadline of maybe we get somebody in, and I don't know. I was imagining more of a window where and not like strikers necessarily, right? But remember that window where we got like Skepovic right at the end, and it was like, who is this guy? And we spent like £3 million on him, and obviously he was terrible. But I just imagine we're probably going to be in for that, but it's like 2 random guys no one's heard of again turn up, and we've spent £5 million, and they don't really add anything.
I think that would be okay if you looked at it quite objectively and you could see what they were trying to do with it, because from a statistical point of view or profiling point of view, or the way that you're trying to play or whatever, if there seemed to be some sort of coherent plan of this is the type of guy we want to sign, then that would make sense. So if somebody comes out of the woodwork and it's, oh, by the way, yeah, you've been slagging us, but we're picking this one out of nowhere and nobody knew about it, well, all right, but it doesn't seem like that at all. It seems like we're just struggling to get people in. And it is a window where that can happen, but if you're going to use that as a defence, Celtic should have known that as well. We should have known that. We should have been organised for that. We knew the Asian Cup was on. We knew the teams were out at the start of the window. Good. We knew that Kyogo was staying there, so that's alleviated it a wee bit. But why then, at this point, are we scrambling to get Adam Ida in? Doesn't make any sense to me. South Korea are one of the favourites. They're always going to be in this round. They're a good team. So it would have been a huge upset if they get knocked out. So, okay, we'll miss guys for 1 or 2 games. But if you felt like that was enough and you could get by with Abada and Kyun and Furuhashi and Palma and stuff, why now at this stage are you going to sign Adam Ida? It just doesn't really make any sense to me. So,
yeah. The team needs to evolve. Reason why Brendan Rodgers left last time, Ollie McGlinchey, I'm kind of with you on that. I'm really worried about the midfield. Sitting looking at Tate getting another little knock, and like if it is Bernardo and O'Reilly, but like we've seen against Ross County, and like we've seen this month, Bernardo's had little spells where he's looked better, but I really worry about the team going the distance, because we are in a little spell now where we're not cutting teams open, we're not being decisive, and I don't think it'll be any easier for the team as the season rolls on, to be quite honest with you. Even though we don't have European commitments, we don't need to worry as much about midweeks and all the rest of it. So I just worry a little bit on there.
We've got a midweek. This midweek, though, so we've got Aberdeen away and then we play Wednesday night in these Hibs. So It's not exactly a fixture pile-up or whatever, right? we've got a big squad, but we've got guys like Vickers who can't really play 2 games in the same week at the moment, far less 3 games. So, and I do think, as I said, that actually getting away from Parkhead will probably do us good this weekend. I mean, the last time we went to Aberdeen, we beat them 3-1. Aberdeen were going pretty well at that point. We played really well, and actually the way the team set up suited us a lot better because we looked very dangerous with the pace on the counter attack and stuff. So if their tails are up and there's some sort of reaction after Barry Robson's been sacked, etc., and they come at us, then I could see us hammering them. But then, we did predict 5 or 6-0 against Ross County, which might still have happened if we'd have scored that penalty, but it didn't work out that way. So, I'm sure it'll be an entertaining game. Aberdeen have been struggling. I'll still expect us to beat Aberdeen. Still think we should be beating Aberdeen. They've not been playing well. But it's just, there's a sort of general sort of whiff going about just now, and I say whiff deliberately. It's not been a good January window for us at all, is it? So
no. I was going to say, Kuhn's little kind of debut he made against Ross County didn't really do too much, but I quite liked a wee bit of what he might give, but a wee bit early to see exactly what he does give us. But there was some post-match comments from some of the players. I think they quite fancy his ability, and maybe Kuhn does kick on. And if we do get another player that's a game winner, all of a sudden, then maybe the POV on the window changes ever so slightly. But I just really feel this team's got a really soft belly in the sense that, like, if we can't kill a team, a dodgy decision could go against us, or the run a play, a bouncy a ball, a penalty, a corner, whatever. And that's my main worry. But if this guy turns in a bit of a player, looks like we're keeping Abada. Can't believe that. So we should have more firepower.
I did say that. You said he was going to go, and I said he would stay. So I'm just going to pull you up for that right now, Quinn Dog.
Yeah, I did say, I said 100% he's gone. I said no chance. I said he is gone, and then we signed Kuhn. I'm like, it's obvious Abada's leaving now. It's obvious. So yeah, I'm happy to take a concession on that one, buddy. But we're super stacked up front now, and if Ida is, maybe it's O, maybe they just as they fancy O, and if you've got Ida to be a better O for 6 months before, I don't know what they're planning on doing in the summer. Let's see what happens. But I think we should be stacked for attack. But without Hatate, like the midfield is really, I know left back we spoke about it quite a lot. Mentioned the goalkeeper, but I know Kuhn's a good addition in the extra wings there. But for me, an extra attacking addition, the better thing would be to get an heir to the Hatate throne or someone else that can do that, carry that water for us, because no one else is doing it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think Kuhn did say he can play like a number 10 role. So interestingly, you could go like McGregor and O'Reilly and play him and Abada and Palma and Furuhashi or whatever. You could do that. Wasn't fit to start against Ross County, so you could change the formation a wee bit from that point of view. He's left-footed, so he's left-footed right winger and all that sort of stuff. So maybe that does give us that option in there. Maybe that does give us that creativity because he's quite quick or he's technical or whatever. It's too early days. Definitely not writing him off. It just doesn't really feel like what we would have wanted. And also, if we do get to a situation where we decide we don't need a left back, but then Greg Taylor gets injured, we've got to make sure we go and we get somebody then. You've got to then go and say, right, well, actually, we're going to have to get somebody. Like, let's go and make sure we happen straight away. And we've not even been capable of doing that, which is just quite baffling. It just seems like we're kind of scraping the barrel a wee bit. It's like, who's got somebody they don't need? And the Beck thing, well, Liverpool might see him as a long-term person there. So Liverpool might have just called him back from Dundee because they needed that cover for January, but were never intending on selling him or whatever. So you get various rumours regarding that. Celtic might have wanted him. Maybe Celtic wanted to buy him. Maybe Liverpool never wanted to sell him. Maybe Celtic wanted to loan him, and the guy thought, well, I'm going to sit on the bench behind Greg Taylor. I'm not wanting to come to Celtic. Who knows? But we would have taken him, wouldn't we? I mean, he's a good player, so we'd definitely have taken him. So it's just dead frustrating. It just doesn't seem that anything that we've really been linked with that's been that exciting at all has really come off or anything either. And yeah, are we waiting up to half 11, or we just go to bed now? I don't know. Let's have a cup of tea.
Probably should. I did want to show you something, but maybe a silver lining for the weekend, right? And I know it's maybe not everyone's cup of tea why they come to the show, but there's a wee flavour of it this week, right? But let me know what you think about this for an under 23 team, McBride.
Well, if we could get Trubin in as well, that would be really good.
If we could get Trubin in for us, that wouldn't be too shabby, eh? But we've got a lot of youth in defence all of a sudden, don't we?
Yeah, well, definitely we have. So that pretty interesting, to be honest. I think if Abada doesn't start, he'll come on from the bench anyway. I don't see if Kuhn does start, whether he'll last the whole game after only playing 25 minutes in like 6 or 7 weeks. Because bear in mind that in Austria they had a winter break as well, so he wasn't playing, he wasn't match fit or whatever. So there's a reason why he only come on for 20 minutes. But yeah, that's pretty exciting. And there's a midweek against Hibs next midweek as well. So keep an eye out for that one too. But anyway, that's us verging into Sorare. And we do have a lot of young players, and there can be improvement for that point of view. But I think that everybody's got to the stage where it's like let's not think about what age somebody is. Let's just think, is this guy going to come in and score goals, or is this guy going to actually help us win the league this season because Greg Taylor's injured and we actually need a left back? Because we've got loads of projects, we've got loads of guys that could be sold for value. We've got Matt O'Reilly, where there's Atletico Madrid and teams in England who want him. We don't need to worry about that. What we need to worry about is we're in an actual race, and we want to make sure we've got the best chance possible winning that and getting into the Champions League. That's what we should be doing. But there we go.
Alas. Thanks to everyone that has joined us live. It's been an absolute pleasure. Me and McBride will be here for the Sorare CSC next week. Tomorrow we'll be recording the flagship podcast, which will be after the deadline, so we'll know for facts what was done and what wasn't done. So for more content like this, make sure to subscribe to Celtic here across whatever social media platforms you're on. Please do hit the like on this if you've watched this live or after we've been live. Especially if you have watched all the way to now after we've been live, please do drop a comment and let us know what you think about the transfer window this January. McBride, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. Hail, hail.
Hail, hail. Celts aren't here.